5 students take a short quiz out of 10, and here are their marks: 2, 4, 4, 6, and 9. A parent walks up and asks the simplest question: "So, how did the class do?" You could answer 3 ways. On average, they got 5. A typical student got 4. The most common mark was 4. Each is a fair way to describe the center. Yet, they don't agree. That's what descriptive statistics is for: squeezing a whole pile of numbers into a few honest summaries: where the center is, how spread out it is, and how unusual any single value is. Let's build all three. First, a little vocabulary that makes every formula readable. Each number is an observation, the whole collection a data set. We label the observations x1, x2, and so on up to xn. Here n is just the count. For our 5 marks, n is 5. And the observations read: x1 is 2, x2 is 4, right through to x5 is 9. The mean is the everyday average, with a wonderfully concrete meaning. Add up every value, then share the total equally among all n of them. We write it with the Greek letter mu. For 2, 4, 4, 6, 9, the sum is 25. Divide by 5, and the mean is exactly 5. Here's the picture behind it. If every student had scored the same, but the total still added to 25, each would land on 5. The mean is the great equalizer. There's an even better way to see the mean: as a balance point. Lay the 5 marks out as dots along a number line. 2, a stack of 2 at 4, then 6, then 9. Now imagine the line is a seesaw, and slide a pivot until it balances. That point sits exactly at the mean, at 5. And notice the lone 9, far out on the right, tugging the pivot toward it. The very thing that makes the mean sensitive. The mean isn't the only notion of center. The median is the middle value once the data is sorted. Ours is already in order. And with 5 values, odd, the median is the middle one. The third, 4. And the mode is the value that appears most often. 2, 6 and 9 each show up once, but 4 shows up twice. So the mode is 4 as well. A quick note: a data set can have no mode, one mode, or several modes on a tie. And unlike the mean, the mode even works on words. The most common color in a bag of sweets, say. Now watch what a single outlier does to each of these. Here are our 5 marks on a wider line. The mean sits at 5, the median at 4, close together, as you'd expect for tidy data. Now change that last mark from 9 out to 90. One wild score. Watch the dot fly right, and watch the mean chase after it, leaping from 5 up to 21.2. But the median doesn't budge. Sort the new data: 2, 4, 4, 6, 90, and the middle value is still 4. One extreme number hijacks the mean, yet barely touches the median. So the two tell different stories. The mean uses every value, so outliers sway it. The median cares only about the middle, so it stays robust. When extremes lurk, the median is often the more honest typical value. Center is only half the story. 2 classes can share a mean yet feel completely different. One tightly bunched, one wildly scattered. To capture that, we measure spread. The quickest is the range, maximum minus minimum. For our marks, largest 9, smallest 2. So the range is 7. Fast. But it only looks at the two ends and ignores everything between. A far richer idea measures how far each value sits from the mean, its deviation. Take a fresh, evenly spaced dataset 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, whose mean is exactly 6. Draw an arrow from the mean out to each point. The deviations: -4, -2, 0, +2, +4. Points left of the mean are negative. Points to the right, positive. Could we just average those deviations for a typical distance? No. Here's the catch: they always cancel. Positives and negatives sum to 0 every time, by the very definition of the mean. The fix is elegant. Square each deviation before averaging. Squaring kills the minus signs, so nothing cancels, and it punishes far-flung points harder. That average of squared deviations is the variance, sigma squared. But squaring changed the units. Points become points squared, awkward to picture. So we take the square root back in the original units. That's the standard deviation, sigma, the typical distance from the mean. Small sigma, the data huddles near the center. Large sigma, it's scattered wide. Let's compute a standard deviation start to finish. On the dataset we just met, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 5 values, so n is 5. Step 1. The mean. The sum is 30 over 5 gives mu equals 6. Step 2. Each value's deviation from 6 and its square. 2 gives minus 4 squared 16. 4 gives minus 2 squared 4. 6 is 0. 8 and 10 mirror them, squared 4 and 16. Step 3. Add up that last column. 16 plus 4 plus 0 plus 4 plus 16 is 40. Divide by n equals 5. And the variance is 8. Step 4. The standard deviation is the square root of the variance. The square root of 8, about 2.83. So a typical mark sits roughly 2.8 from the mean of 6. One more lens on spread splits. The sorted data into 4 equal quarters. Take 7 sorted values, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. The median cuts them in half at 7, the second quartile. The lower quartile Q1 is the median of the bottom half, 1, 3, 5, so 3. The upper quartile Q3 is the median of the top half, 9, 11, 13, so 11. The gap between them, Q3 minus Q1, is the interquartile range, 11 minus 3, 8. It's the width of the middle 50%, and ignoring the extreme tails, it's a robust measure of spread. Draw all 5 landmarks, minimum Q1, median Q3, maximum, and you get the box plot. The box spans the interquartile range. A line inside marks the median. Whiskers reach to the smallest and largest values. At a glance, it shows the center, the spread, and how lopsided the data is. We can now answer the third question. How unusual is a single value? Take it, subtract the mean, and divide by the standard deviation. That's the z-score. And it counts how many standard deviations you sit from the mean. Adult heights have mean 170 and standard deviation 10 centimeters. A man of 185 is 15 above, so his z is 1.5. One of 160 is 10 below, a z of minus 1. The sign records which side of the mean you're on. And here's the real payoff. Because we divide by sigma, the z-score is unitless. It compares values from different scales. 60 on a test with mean 50, sigma 5, is a z of 2. 80 on a test with mean 70, sigma 10, only a z of 1. So relative to the spread, the first was the stronger, showing. Your turn now. Here's a fresh data set, 73596. Find its mean, then its standard deviation, working through every step. Pause the video and try it before I do. Here's the walkthrough. First, the mean. The sum is 7 plus 3 plus 5 plus 9 plus 6, which is 30, over 5. That gives mu equals 6. Now the deviations from 6 and their squares. 7 gives plus 1, 3 minus 3, 5 minus 1, 9 plus 3, and 6, 0. Square them all, and they add to 20. Divide that sum of 20 by 5 to get the variance, 4. And the standard deviation is the square root of 4, exactly 2. If you landed on a mean of 6 and a standard deviation of 2, you've genuinely got this. Trap 1. The most common mix-up. The mean adds everything and divides by n. The median sorts and takes the middle. Different ideas. And for skewed data, they can be far apart. Trap 2, an even count. With no single middle, you average the two middle ones. For 3, 5, 7, 9. That's 5 plus 7 over 2, 6. Not even in the data. Trap 3. Variance and standard deviation differ. Variance is in squared units. The standard deviation is its square root in the original units. For a typical distance, report sigma. Trap 4. Sign errors in the z-score. It's x minus mu over sigma in that order. Flip it and every sign inverts. And never forget to divide by sigma. The raw difference alone isn't a z-score. Let's lock it in. For the center, 3 tools. The mean, the balance point using every value. The median, the robust middle. And the mode, the most frequent. For the spread, the quick range, the standard deviation sigma. The typical distance from the mean. And the interquartile range the box plot draws so vividly. And for position, the z-score. How many standard deviations from the mean, unitless. So you can compare anything to anything. Center, spread, position. With those three, you can describe any pile of numbers.